Well, our guys had a few days off and then back to practice last night, day off today, and a normal week before we travel out to West Virginia on Friday morning. So got everybody back and safe, and was happy with getting the players back and looking forward to a good week of practice and heading out to West Virginia.
Mike, you probably know Dana as well as anybody around here. How do you think he's dealing with and handling the struggles they've had so far, personality-wise?
Oh, I think he'll be fine. Obviously they're a long ways away from us, so we don't get much on them, and I don't really pay much attention to what's going on outside of our program. So, without speaking for him, it's a learning process I think that most of us go through in being a head coach.
Speaking of long ways away, is it hard to wrap your head around the fact that you're going halfway across the country for a conference game? Is that just college football in 2013?
Oh, I think most people in this region, this part of the country, have a hard time with it. I think it's the future. I think there'll be some conferences come together and consolidate even more in the future. I don't know anybody can predict when and where, but with television money and the direction we're going, I would say that it could be the future.
You were the preseason favorite in the Big 12. If I were to give you truth serum when you took this job in 2005, would you ever envision a time when you would be the preseason favorite in the Big 12?
Oh, I don't know that I ever thought that far ahead. When I got the job, I thought that we had a huge task, and we were going to have to work diligently day by day, and never really put much thought into it until we started collecting some players that I felt like had the capability of playing in the NFL. And once we started to gather some of those guys on our team, in most cases, if you get good quarterback play and you have a few guys that are going to get picked in the draft, you have a chance to win your conference.
You talk about Jeremy Smith and what his impact has been this year. He's maybe been a little under the radar, but he's obviously been very effective.
Jeremy has played well for us, and he's been a good leader. And as we progress through the season and conference play, he's going to have to carry the ball more, and you'll see him start to show up more statistically than what he has in preseason.
What's been the biggest key to approaching these road games? You said on the conference call last night that it's just another road game going to West Virginia, but how do you prepare these guys to go well, because your Big 12 road success has been really good the last few years?
I don't know that it's any different. Unfortunately, this will be our 6th out of our last 7 games that we're playing away from Boone Pickens. So I would hope that it's helped us some. If there is anything to gain from it, we've done it quite a bit lately. And, I think fundamentals, being simple, discipline and structure are important in playing on the road. And fortunately, we've had enough good players to weather the storm over the last few years. And you have to start fast. When you play on the road, you got to get going early in the game and try to take the crowd out of it.
Jeremy said that you once referenced the movie 300 as far as just
What's that?
He said Jeremy Smith said you once referenced the movie 300 as kind of a road motivator.
Well, and when you go on the road, there's we'll travel with 70 players, give or take a few, and a staff, an airplane, a travel party will be total around 115. Then there's always some people on the plane that really aren't associated with us, that may work in the other side of the building. But when you get there, it's 100, 115 people against however many their stadium holds for the most part. So we've always challenged our team that way, and told them to come together as a group and play hard, and it gives them the best chance to win.
Speaking about the road, Mike, do you give Mac Butler any parameters, like I want to stay about this far from the stadium? Just some general rules that you like about travel, or do you kind of let him bring the options to you? How does that work?
Well, first off, Mac is probably as good as anybody in the business at what he does. And he comes to me a year in advance, and we discuss travel. It varies some based on kickoff time. But going to West Virginia, our options are limited. in airports to land, airports to come out of, based on plane size, and a facility that can hold our travel party, 115 or so. So there's not as many options. So, but we altered our plans just a little bit based on a early morning kickoff.
I believe you were in Florida when you got the text saying that you were watching your sons play baseball, when you get the text that said, hey, OSU's the Big 12 favorite. You didn't need a you arrived moment, because that would have happened in 2011 when you actually won the Big 12. But was it validation that the program is kind of continues to stay around?
Well, in August, I said I think that validates the people in this part of the country have a lot of respect for our football team. Certainly doesn't mean anything. You still have to play them all, because we were in that situation. And as I said, I felt like there were a couple years in the last 4 or 5 years that we had the best team, and we were picked third or second or whatever it may be. So I think that Oklahoma State's come a long ways in football and is starting to develop and build some tradition, but we still have a ways to go.
You've had different offensive coordinators, different personalities between Fedora and obviously Dana and Monk, and even yourself. Got a lot of attention sitting on the trunk, mapping out series. You're listening on the headsets, but what kind of demeanor do you get from Yursich during a game upstairs?
Well, Mike is very calm, and they have good interaction together. We have smart coaches on our team. There's several guys on our coaching staff that are deserving of being coordinators that don't have that so-called title at this time. And it's important for both of our coordinators to interact with our other coaches and take advice and get information, and Mike does a nice job of that. We've had all different kinds here in many different ways, and I'm happy with the way Mike handles the game, his approach, and his demeanor on game day.
You guys are 15 of 15 in the red zone so far this year with 15 touchdowns. What's been the key to having that type of success, and how much of it has Yursich done anything differently as far as play calls, or just kind of how is that all?
I think that our ability to run the football with the quarterback has helped those statistics. Obviously, Mike, just like a quarterback or a head coach, if you have success, he's going to get some credit. If you don't, he's going to get the blame. So, but as I mentioned earlier, I think that we have a wealth of knowledge on both sides of the ball, and those guys have had a good plan. And we'll know a lot more as we start to run through conference schedule here in the next few weeks of kind of where we're at in those areas and as a football team.
Do you think that your pre-conference games help prepare you and your new coaches to gel with each other and get a good feel for each other and prepare for conference? Yeah,
I thought that offensively in particular was much better in the last game, and it was an easy game for us. But I've been on headsets and listened to coaches in games where we won by 4 or 5 touchdowns, and I wasn't as comfortable with the language and not necessarily language, but the conversation that went on. So I think that they've improved. Defensively, Glenn and Van had been here, and those guys have conversation, but not as much as what I'm accustomed to from an offensive side.
Does preparation change going from your non-conference schedule into your conference games at all, or just stay the same?
Same.
Mac Butler, here's another unsung hero. Your equipment guys have to get from point A to point B, and sometimes point B can be really far away.
Yeah, they've got a lot of work. Wes Edwards is another guy that does a great job for us. We're very lucky to have a number of guys that work in those different fields that work very hard and kind of behind the scenes. And this one's a challenge for them. We've got a number of student workers that don't get an opportunity to fly on our plane. They've got to go commercial because we can only get a certain size of plane in an airport. So there's some challenges in relocating on Friday afternoon.
Coach, who's the biggest comedian on the team? Who's the funniest guy?
Well, that's a good question. I know that Barnett always seems comical. Offensively, I would say that Josh Stewart is usually laughing and joking around. I don't catch that side of him much, but those would be the two if I had to name two.
Coach, how important is it for you guys to start the Big 12 playoff with a win?
Well, every game's important for us, and conference play is, you have a preseason schedule, and your goal is to finish 3-0, and then you go to conference play, and if you don't fare as well in non-conference as you wanted to, then you're able to reestablish a goal in conference play. But they're all important. If you don't play well in non-conference, then there's not as much excitement in the program going into conference play. So, we only get an opportunity to play 13 of them, and so we want to take advantage of every opportunity we have to play well on Saturdays.
Mike, you're on the backside of the bye week. Was it good for you?
I think so. It's good for us to get out and recruit. Players get a couple days. I'm not a big fan of a bye week this early in the season. I'd prefer to have one after the 5th or 6th game and then play the rest of the stretch. But, again, that's something that's out of my control at this time. Bye weeks are here. They're from now on because of television and them trying to market and make more money late in the year in December. So we have to get adjusted to having, really for us, three open dates now in a 12-game season.
It's so early, and you don't see everybody else, but does number 11 in the rankings feel about right for this team?
I don't have any idea. Just like what you said, it's so early. I'm not sure that there should be any polls out before October 1. That's just my opinion. And I don't see enough teams. I just don't watch that many other teams play if they're not on a cross schedule.
Did you watch West Virginia and Maryland?
Very little. I saw 10 plays maybe. It was in between the time I got home from games and trying to load up and get ready to go dove hunting.
I assume you guys were recruiting JW before Dana got on campus, but I know he recruited JW. Can you talk about sort of what he saw, if it sort of reinforced what JW could do in that offense that he was bringing in?
Dana, we knew about JW, but Dana kind of pushed the issue with him, and his relationship with Coach Walsh was really good. And from that point forward, when we saw his tape and his history of being a winner, it didn't really take much to convince us to bring him in. But he was the one that kind of pushed the envelope early.
Considering Dana's offense is known so much for throwing it, and JW was more dual threat with maybe an emphasis on the running, kind of interesting to me that he really wanted to.
Yeah, you're right. But just the winner, that just the attitude and his ability to perform and be successful, that conversation took place, and we felt like that what he brought to the table as a competitor, we would find a way to improve areas that we thought that would fit our offense.